So probably the oldest recollection of the importance of this place is when this becomes known as Prayāg, King of Holy Places. So Prayāg had received a benediction that this place, this holy place, his holy place, would be the king of all holy places, all tirthas, and thus all other tirthas, holy places, tirthas, dhams, etc., should come and pay their respects to Tirtharaj, Prayāg. So all the holy places came in their personified forms and offered respect, all except Vṛndāvana, Vrindadevi, didn't come. And Prayāg, he complained to Krishna, Vishnu, that I have this, my position is such, and you said that all the others would come and respect. But Krishna said, yes, but not my home. So Vṛndāvana is transcendental to even Prayāg, king of holy places. So then there's the part about the Tribeni, the Sangam. The Sangam, Tribeni means 3 rivers. But when we go there are only 2 rivers, Ganga and Yamuna. So the Sarasvati is believed to be mystically present. And years ago, I asked some mahants here, big sādhus at Kumbha Mela, well, where is the Sarasvati? And they said, well, the Sarasvati is a mystical river. And the Sarasvati appears here mystically, cannot be seen by the eye. Because the Sangam means Tribeni, it means 3 rivers. So we looked and researched, and certainly there were never 3 rivers running on the top of the ground at the Sangam. There's nothing that can verify that there were 3 rivers here, particularly the Sarasvati. So the sadhus, they used to say, well, it's a mystical river. So in 1977, Kumbha Mela, the Ganges, back right about here, split into 2. And the Ganges became 2 rivers and entered the Sangam as 2 rivers. And then the Jamuna, the 3rd river, so everyone proclaimed that the 3rd river was the physical appearance of the Sarasvati. So this is kind of how Tribeni was explained, with little variations according to oral tradition. Always has some variation. But then a few years ago, the satellite imagery revealed an area and a river that had dried up thousands of years ago. And after archaeological research and comparing the names of other ancient rivers that entered in to the Sarasvati before the Sarasvati appears here, understand? Mm-hmm. So this dried up riverbed was recognized as the Sarasvati River. But that's over 1,500 kilometers from here. And there's no way that river used to curve and come all the way over here. That Sarasvati River comes out of the Himalayas, I think it's called the Sutlej, and a few other rivers enter into it, and it cuts across what's now Pakistan and parts of India, and it ends up emptying into the Arabian Sea. It never did come over here. So it's a little bit of a mystery, the Tribeni, and how the Sarasvati is here. Probably it's always been here a mystical river, mystically present, and that probably I say probably because there are so many things that are missing in the Vedic histories. Something happened where Sarasvati is present here, and thus the name Tribeni. But where Sarasvati was most of the time was not a mystical river. It was a real river, just like the Ganges or the Jamuna. And it had thousands and thousands of villages along that. Okay, so that's just a little background about the three rivers, Jamuna, Ganga, and Sarasvati. This is also important because this is the place where Rupa Gosvāmī met with Mahaprabhu, had darshan of Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu instructed him in Rasa Tattva. The result of that being Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, a book that Rupa Gosvāmī wrote later. Further interest for us is this is where Prabhupada used to live for many years, in Allahabad. And this is where he met Bhaktisiddhanta for the second time in 1927. 1927, but in any case, Bhaktisiddhanta had sent his disciples here to arrange, and they were going shop to shop. And they came to Prabhupada's shop when he was a pharmacist. And he recognized them. Oh, these are the same people that I met 5 years ago. From that point on, and here in Allahabad, in Prayāg, Prabhupada became more engaged with the mission of Bhaktisiddhanta and Bhaktisiddhanta's disciples. Later, 5 years later, in 1932, 33, like that, 6 years later rather, Prabhupada was initiated here at the mutt that was established by Bhaktisiddhanta and his disciples. And interestingly enough, Prabhupada received first and second initiation here at the same time, on the same day. Yet another significant interest for us is this is where Prabhupada first met Śrīdhara Mahārāja. Now, Śrīdhara Mahārāja took sannyas in 1930, 3 years before Prabhupada took Harinam. But they met here when Śrīdhara Mahārāja was still wearing white cloth. Means when he was not a grihasta because his wife had passed away, but he was still in white dress. That's Śrīla Prabhupada says, in white dress. So he wasn't a grihasta anymore, but he was in white dress. So these are, some of the significant things here, and both universal. The oldest story, though, is not the one of the Saraswati and the appearances of the river, but is the story of Mohinī-mūrti and the pot of nectar, which is first captured by the asuras, by the ill-intended forces of the universe captured this pot of nectar, let's say the demons. Well, knowing that only mischief and bad things are going to happen if this pot of nectar, which has a lot of power to grant eternal life and all types of things and bring the dead back and all kinds of things, this in the wrong hands is going to be a problem. So Vishnu incarnates as a very beautiful woman and enters the place where the asuras have the pot of nectar, and she picks it up and she starts to dance. And they all just get intoxicated by watching her dance, and then she just basically dances out the door and steals the pot of nectar. Then there's some pursuit. Lord Shiva begins to pursue Mohinī. Even Lord Shiva becomes bewildered by the beauty of Vishnu when he takes the form, the feminine form of a woman. And then Mohinī travels in different places. That means they're flying mystically through the sky, and some of this nectar drops down in different places, and this being the primary. There are other parts of the story, but it doesn't concern us so much. But the drops of nectar fall here, one drop here, some drops in Hardwar, some in Ujjain, and I believe it's this three. And the Kumbha Mela is celebrated in all these three places every 12 years, and even every half year, 6 years rather. It's celebrated in these places. But this is the biggest one. The Ujjain Mela, the Hardwar Mela, they don't compare but a fraction to this Kumbha. So every 12 years is a Kumbha Mela. Every 144 years, every 12 years, there's what's a Maha Kumbha. But what I've seen is every Kumbha Mela for the last 4 years, they're saying the same thing. They're saying this is the Maha Kumbha Mela, one every 144 years. I read it in the BBC this morning. This is the Maha Kumbha. It happens every 144 years. Well, that's what they said in 2001. That's what they said in 1989. That's what they said in 1977. So as far as a 12-year period, I think the astrologers have lost track of that because it seems to be lost. Nobody really knows. So every Kumbha Mela is a Maha Kumbha Mela. That's what I see now. Yeah. Then one other point of interest for us is 1977, Śrīla Prabhupāda came here to Kumbha Mela. And we had a camp which was not as nice as the one we have right now. So sometimes we think this is a little austere. The one we had was actually not as well organized as this, but the tents were a little better. So we had a nice tent for Prabhupada. It's called a Swiss cottage. And he came and he spent either 3 or 5 nights, I can't remember. And everything was set up very nice for him, but there was an electric problem. We didn't have electricity at all, or we were only getting a short, it was different than it is now. Each camp had to register with its own meter, and it was very, very chaotic. And anyway, we couldn't get electricity, so Śrīla Prabhupada couldn't work on his translations because he used a dictaphone, which was not battery powered, which needed electricity. And so seeing his translation work starting to fall behind, then on the 4th or 5th day, he left. He had planned to spend 2 full weeks, but he had left. When he was here, there was a simple darshan arrangement made. It wasn't even as nice as where I'm sitting now. And there's some pictures of that. And a lot of respectable people and village people and just all sorts and types of people, as you see moving on the road. They would come in, have darshan of Prabhupada. Well, just before coming to the Kumbha Mela, while in Bombay, Giriraj Maharaj asked Śrīla Prabhupada, well, Prabhupada, why are we going to Kumbha Mela? What is the significance? So he replied and said, for association. We're going for association. He said, there will be many saints there. He said, there will be yogis from the Himalayas there, 1,000 years old. So we never knew whether he was just kind of pulling our nose, so to speak. But everybody was rumoring that around. Oh, Prabhupada said there'll be yogis here, 1,000 years old. So everybody was on the lookout for these yogis. Well, one day in the afternoon, when everybody was out on Sankirtan chanting and distributing books, I was back in the camp, and Prabhupada was in the camp, and Prabhupada's assistant, Hari Sari, and suddenly these 3 really good looking in the face yogis showed up at the gate. I say yogis because they had the dreadlocks, the juttis, very short like Babaji. They were in an orangish dress, short dress. They had shining kamandalus, and they had their whole, blanket routine. They were a tight group of 3, and they looked very effulgent, kind of. They looked very sattvic. Let's say very, very sattvic. So then the guard went over to Prabhupada's tent, and Prabhupada's secretary came out. Then he went over and spoke something, and went back. And the next thing I know, these 3 yogis, I say yogis, they entered Prabhupada's tent. And they stayed in there for about a half hour, had a conversation in Hindi with Prabhupada, and then they left. And just as they were leaving, I stopped them at the gate and I spoke to them just for a moment. And what I remember from that time is what I said, they were very effulgent, and in my mind, if there'd have been 4 of them, I'd have probably thought it was the 4 Kumaras. Because they were definitely a notch above the other sadhus that are just randomly here at the Kumbha Mela. The other day I was thinking, well, Kumbha Mela is a bit like Wall Street, in that there's a lot of trading going on here. There's a lot of business going on here. There's some trading of spiritual ideas, and there's trading the market. You see, it's a big market. It's a big festival market, selling a lot of blankets and simple trinkets and souvenirs. So it's a bit like a market. It's a bit like, it's more like a carnival or like a circus. Mela means festival. It's a little bit like Wall Street in that there's a lot of cheating going on here also. It's absolutely amazing. The bulk of the people just come in with a great faith in the Ganges, in the auspicious moment of the Amavasya for a sacred bath, and they come very respectful to all the holy men. So as we call them sadhus, they come with this great respect for all the sadhus, but they know very little about what it actually means to be a sadhu, and they don't know absolutely nothing about the individual sadhus that they're going tent to tent and pandal to pandal and respecting. And but those who are in the know that some of these sadhus are just absolute cheaters. Some of them rate no better than being pimps or just hustlers, fraudsters. So like Wall Street, Kumbha Mela has a lot of cheating also. But on the good side of things, Kumbha Mela represents many levels of theism, many levels of transcendence, and even atheism takes part in this festival. By atheism, I mean Buddhism. Buddhists are atheistic. The Buddhist meditation is anatma. I am not a conscious being. I am not a spiritual being. But that's a small percentage of what is Kumbha Mela. The fundamental meditation for Kumbha Mela is Aham Brahmasmi. I am conscious. I am spiritual. I am a spiritual being. I am a conscious spiritual being for eternity. But after that, there are many levels of consciousness. And most of those are represented here by different bona fide sadhus and acharyas like Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, and Gaudiya Sampradaya, followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ontologically, the camps of devotion, bhakti, are the most exalted. Bhakti is at the top of the yoga system. Not at the bottom, not at the middle. Bhakti-yoga is at the top. All other systems of yoga, Ashtanga yoga, Hatha yoga, Kriya yoga. Kriya yoga is close to Bhakti-yoga, but it's quite a bit below pure bhakti. Bhakti is partially represented by the Madhva Sampradaya, by the Ramanuja Sampradaya, but its completeness, bhakti and prema, or love and devotion, is represented by the school of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Below the bhakti school, you have many different types of yogis present here. Kundalini yogas, Ashtanga yoga, as I mentioned, Hatha yoga. And they're teaching or making available some particular level of spiritual advancement. But all of those are categorized in the beginnings, and some of them a little bit in the middle stage. But Bhakti Yoga occupies the highest position in enlightenment and development of consciousness. So it's all here at Kumbha Mela. Everything's here. From the beginning stage of learning to be a vegetarian, which is a very interesting thing. There were around 30 million people present here yesterday. There's an estimated over 100 million will come and go over the 45 days of Kumbha Mela. And all of them, while they are here, are vegetarian. And all of them, while they are here, abstain from alcohol or any kind of sexual pursuit. There is also no music played here except devotional music, spiritual music, bhajan and kirtan. And you can just contrast that to any festival held in the Western countries, even religious festivals. There'll be beer and there'll be wine, and of course there'll be plenty of non-vegetarian. So Kumbha Mela is the biggest non-violent festival in the world. We saw practically yesterday millions and millions of people going for the sacred bath in the Ganges and coming back with little to no pushing and shoving, no egos, no fighting. And any festival of this size in the Western country, you couldn't get people to come to it or participate in it unless there was going to be intoxication, unless there was going to be wild rock and roll, heavy metal, blues, country western. There'd have to be just some sort of mundane music to entertain everyone. All that is absent here. No drinking, no meeting, no heavy metal, no rocking out disco style. But everyone is very happy here. Everyone is in a joyful state of mind. So that says something. That says something. What that exactly says, well, that will be a little bit different depending on your understanding or an individual's understanding of the whole picture. But that is significant because you cannot find that anywhere else in the world. Now, part of the belief of most of the people here is that by taking a sacred bath in the Ganges or the Jamuna, and particularly at the Sangam, where the Jamuna, Ganges, and Sarasvati meet, by taking a bath there, your karmas, particularly your bad karmas, not the good ones, the bad ones, the pops, the bad karmas, are cleansed away. And it's something that even a beginner can experience. You take bath in the Ganges, and it's very invigorating. And although, in one sense, you look at the water and it's kind of silty. This year it's a little bit of a muddy color. It's just dirt from the earth. It's not anything toxic. It's just water that's mixing up the sand. So it looks... Normally, if you take a bath in muddy water, you do not feel fresh. You do not feel clean. You feel gritty. You feel like, oh, I got to get somewhere and take a bath, wash this grit off. Well, you take a bath in the Ganges and you feel lighter, you feel fresh. And this is because when you take bath in the Ganges, you become purified. And consciousness is then released. Consciousness' tendency is to rise up. The senses tend to want to bring consciousness down to the bodily level. So that's why diet is important and other physical practices are important for raising consciousness. They actually don't raise the consciousness. They just free the consciousness from the bondage of the senses. And consciousness' natural tendency is higher and higher stages. So that's what everybody experiences. But what usually happens to the mass of people is they once again fall victim to their senses And after leaving the Kumbha Mela, they slowly enter back into their old way of life. And by their impure habits of non-veg, drinking, smoking, different things like this, they again contaminate themselves. So this is compared to the elephant who takes bath in the river, and then after taking a bath, he likes to throw dirt all over himself again. But those who are conscious and those who are aware, the real sadhus, they continue with this pure standard of living, even after taking the sacred bath in the Ganges. So in this way, the life of a sadhu, by his practice, by his ritual, the ritual bath in the Ganges and other such things, consciousness is always being raised. This is the path of enlightenment. So there are people here who are very serious about enlightenment, self-realization, and then there's every other level that one can possibly imagine. Why to be here? Some people are here just because of the rush of being in the biggest crowd of humanity the world has ever seen. That's Kumbha Mela.